What is going on, guys? So, I think there's been a lot of talk for probably years now, even back when the game started. I hear that it was talked about a lot. But a specific talk and conversation of, is Yu-Gi-Oh! Slightly, fallen off? And I already made a video about this, about Yu-Gi-Oh! Dying, and how to, I slightly touch base about what I'm about to talk about, but this video is going to talk about my ideas on how Konami could popularize Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. And like I said, I already touched on this again, but it was more talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Dying as a whole than more me talking about how Konami can popularize it. So it's kind of a repeat of the same video, but it's more focused on that. So, first off, what I think Konami could do to make the game more popular is more TCG exclusives. There are so many OCG exclusives, it is insane. Don't get me wrong, we have TCG exclusives. If I remember correctly, Noble Knights is completely TCG exclusive. But there are a lot of OCG exclusives, and then eventually, sometimes they do become TCG. But for the most part, I feel like we need our own more cards for ourselves. And they have been doing it lately, so I can't really put that as a #1 thing to do, but maybe do it more often, that's what I'm trying to say. But that would make people want to play, but that's more current players wanting to play. Something else I think they could do, and this is not in any order or anything, it's just me rambling off, is give budget players more viable decks. So, okay, when a box set comes out, there's always the new, not always, but the new archetype that they're trying to really put out, then maybe a few cards to support an archetype from the previous deck, or previous set. So, previous set has more support, making that deck stronger, and a new deck comes out that's really strong. That's usually how it goes, for the most part. And then there's an archetype that's like the budget archetype that might get support in the next set a little bit or whatever, but it's not a strong deck. It's not a terrible deck, but it's not a strong deck. So what I mean by that, to give budget more player, not because budget players are a necessity in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's not necessarily what I'm saying. It's more like, if those decks are a little bit more viable, and I'm not talking about completely groundbreaking. Obviously, if they were groundbreaking, they would be beating our next thing. But they don't make these decks really even great anymore. Like, there's no viability to them. And I'm not always... Fluffles are a good example of how those were more of a budget deck that became to be an actual good deck. And they need more of those. They need more decks that are viable, and if played right and has the right combination of people to set up, they can do really well, and they could even top, but they're still not going to be the bread and butter. They're still not going to be the best shit ever, and they need to do that more often, because then it entices people want to play because there's more of a cheaper option than having to spend a couple $100s on the new thing, and it would still make people want to go out and buy their box sets, because especially with those lower tier decks, the commons are easy, so it's like, oh, why buy individual cards when I could maybe buy a box or two, get some rare cards, sell them off, and make that cheap deck. That's my thought process on that. Anyways. But the next thing, and this is the big thing, this is the big thing of the whole topic I'm talking about, is marketing and going into the modern day. So when I was a kid, even back when I got my first Game Boy game, I forget what it was. It wasn't the Sacred Cards, because that's the one that was more copying like Pokemon, along with Chef of Destruction. It might have been Yu-Gi-Oh! Eternal Soul? I don't remember. It was like their first actual duel thing where it had this little finger that would like point, and it would have like music in it, and it was just purely dueling. And you went through like pretty much the whole Battle City characters, but it's just dueling. There's no running around and find duelists. It's like there was like 6 characters on each screen, and you beat all of them, and then you unlock the next 6 screens. If anybody knows what it is, tell me down below. It's for Game Boy Advance. I always thought, oh, you know, this would be a cool game to come out on the computer or whatever. And they've had computer games come out, and they're always failures. And Asian Eye has talked about this before, that a way to make the PC games better. But I have a step further. When I got my first iTouch in 2009, the first thing I even thought, and I wasn't even really into Yu-Gi-Oh! Then, I kind of quit at that point, was like, oh man, I wonder if they'll ever make a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game for it. And from what I've seen, that hasn't really been the case. And now, in this modern day, it's like 2016, Hearthstone has taken off. There's another card game, I forget what its name is, taken off, and then there's the one from the Witcher universe that they were just announcing at E3 that they're making a whole card game for that, and that's going to be on PC and Android and iOS. So this is like the perfect time for Yu-Gi-Oh! To jump in and follow the card game strategies of Hearthstone and stuff. I don't play Hearthstone, so I don't really know the card strategies as in, marketing strategies for them, but how cards are released, how you get cards, how you play decks. Even Magic the Gathering card game for Xbox and stuff like that has been very popular. So they need to copy a somewhat same marketing strategy and put it onto the mobile platform, because it can just gain the mass amount of audience and keep players at play. the game would so take off because there'd be so many people, and also with it they could release new cards with it. But what I'm trying to say is it would entice all the players that already play. I mean, everybody's got a smartphone, and an iPad. Play it on mobile devices, the people that are playing, and then that amount of growth would be able to shed on to other people. Like Hearthstone, if I'm correct, I could be wrong, they didn't have a following before the game came out, and they hoped people would, bring on to it. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Already has a player base. I don't know how many people are playing, but even if 100,000 downloaded the game, there might be more than that playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, or there could be less. But just say on a scale, 100,000 people download Yu-Gi-Oh! That amount of people could share and spread the knowledge of this game, and then people could see it on the App Store and stuff like that, and download it and play it. And whatever the market strategy is, so they copy a good one, the game would just explode, because then people would go and buy the physical copies. Some people would just do online. The Konami could even do online-only tournaments, even though they could be smaller in prizes. There's so many things they could do with it that would make a big game, and then they could have microtransactions for smaller things. I don't think they should do it for card releases, but they could do it for, like, you could have a character that you can make in your game, and you can make him look cool, and then he goes around in duels. You can also fucking customize your card sleeves, like Asian and I pointed out before, and I've talked about this in my last video. Yeah, you want to buy this thing in card sleeves that's really cool, here's $1. The microtransactions that don't affect the gameplay, like pay to win, but affect, like, cosmetic things, and then Konami can still make money off of that as well. That's just my thoughts, though. I feel like it would work, and I feel like if Konami got into this, the game would grow exponentially, physical and digital, and Konami as a brand. But then again, I'm not a marketing guy, and you'd think the big guys upstairs would already do this, but you never know. So, let me know down below what you think Konami should do to popularize the game and make people want to play again, because it doesn't look like more and more people I always feel like are just quitting. So, yeah. Then I'm talking more about popularizing. I'm not talking about more like changing the game mechanics. You know what I mean? Because that's game how it's gonna go. People are gonna be unhappy about what the game state is. But yeah, let me know down below, and I'll see you later, guys. Peace.
Damn.